It's the 11th of September and I'm Tom Glass and welcome to The Roast. Tonight, we look at the idea of patenting human genes. Having never looked at my genes before, I thought it was about time to find out whether they are earning their keep in here. So I've shrunk Alex and Clark down and now they are going to go inside of me. Guys, do you want to come onto set? They are so adorable.
Tom, you haven't even shrunk us yet.
Oh, right.
I guess we can try and get inside.
Yeah, should we have a crack? Yeah? Just... it's not working. I'm just going to use the old Shrinkage 3000. Hello. Okay, time to ingest. You ready, fellas? In you come.
Let's do this!
Oh, almost chewed. Oh, God, they're so dry. Okay, while they make their way down my esophagus, Mark Humphries has the headlines. Did they take off their shoes?
Nope. I'm wearing high heels.
Alex.
Minister for Communications Malcolm Turnbull has announced that community television will lose its broadcasting licence at the end of next year. And I thought only NBC was stupid enough to cancel Community. Malcolm Turnbull is one of the more competent government ministers, so you can rest assured he made the decision after thorough consultation with those affected.
This decision has been made public without any communication or process of consultation with community TV stations.
I'd like to issue a correction to a previous statement I made. Malcolm Turnbull is the Minister for No Communications, but he does have some big plans for community television.
The government believes that the best outcome for community television is that in future it uses the internet as its distribution platform.
The government that brought back knights and dames wants to tell us about the future. So, although community television has provided valuable training for countless TV professionals and produced several successful entertainers, it seems there's just no room on the broadcast spectrum for community television. We need that room for important cultural institutions like the TV shopping network, and not just TVSN. I mean, let's say you need to get your hands on the NutriBullet. If you miss the NutriBullet infomercial on 4Me, you've got nowhere to go but Spree TV. And if you miss that, that's why we have Fresh Ideas. But that might not be the best time for you, which is why we need Extra. And if you did catch it but missed some of the subtle character development, that's why we have Extra 2. And you need to remember, these channels only play that NutriBullet promo several times a day. But if you think all those stations sound like shit, wait until you find out some of the digital spectrum is taken up by something called Channel 9. Dreadful. The announcement will also come as a blow to Humphrey B. Bear, who returned to TV last year on community television and celebrates his 50th anniversary in 2015. So happy anniversary, Mr. B. Bear. To celebrate, you're being taken off air. Now pack your things and for God's sake put some pants on. Rupert Murdoch, the owner of News Corp, Fox and A Broken Heart, has questioned whether the use of topless models in his newspaper The Sun is old-fashioned. That's right, the owner of 21st Century Fox may be joining the 21st century. Murdoch made his views known about the so-called Page 3 girls this week on Twitter.
Brit feminists bang on forever about Page 3. I bet never buy paper. I think old-fashioned, but readers seem to disagree.
I bet never buy paper. Kids, stay in school. Otherwise you won't learn to write properly and might just become a billionaire. But if The Sun does decide to drop the Page 3 girls, it will certainly be a big turnaround from their previous position in 2010.
Page 3 girls in all their glory represent the very image of freedom in this country.
You hear that, Churchill? I know you saved Britain from Nazi domination, but the image of freedom actually belongs to boobs. That said, if The Sun did get rid of the Page 3 girls, it would free up space for some more hard-hitting journalism.
Battle of the booty as J-Lo, Nicki and Rita wow New York.
Ooh, who won? My money's on teenage boys. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Not just teenage boys, Mark, teenage girls too. Now they know what beauty is and can shift their unattainable body expectations accordingly. Moving on to genes, and not the ones that barely cover my badoink-a-doink. I'm talking about the genes that determine your hair colour and your eye colour. Whether you're like Mark and 6 foot tall and blonde, or like me, 2'2" on my tippy toes. Because last week, the federal court upheld a ruling allowing companies to patent genes that naturally occur in the human body. It comes as a bit of a shock to hear that some researcher owns my genetic material. I mean, sure, I've sold my body many times, but I never sold it to science. Well, there was that one guy, John Science, but I'm pretty sure he was a pastry chef. Anyway, back in the 90s, a US company named Myriad Genetics isolated 2 genes linked to breast cancer named BRCA1 and BRCA2, and subsequently received a patent for those genes. So, good news for everyone who owns shares in Myriad Genetics. Congratulations, you now own cancer. So, how do you patent a gene?
The court found the gene, when isolated, had resulted in an artificially created state of affairs for economic benefit, and therefore is an invention.
And I thought necessity bred invention, but it turns out it's good lawyers, because over in the United States, they weren't so fortunate.
Myriad did not create anything. To be sure, it found an important and useful gene, but separating that gene from its surrounding genetic material is not an act of invention.
So even the US Supreme Court, which previously ruled that corporations are people, found 9-0 that letting businesses patent genes was a bridge too far. So the battle in the Australian Federal Court must have been a similarly fascinating debate, with human rights on one side and the interests of corporations on the other. It would have been an epic Erin Brockovich tale of huge legal proportions.
An intellectual property consultant said the decision was based on technicalities springing from another court decision in 1956, deciding whether a new method of spraying crops was able to be patented.
Well, I'm not entirely sure how a 60-year-old case about crop spraying applies to my genes, but I think we can all agree that any legal decision about cancer that wins on a technicality is a good one. Now, oh, God, excuse me. So I really shouldn't have eaten those reporters earlier. One moment. Alex, Clark, how are you going in there?
Tom, we're in your womb!
Oh, fantastic. Why?
To explain to you one very simple, incredibly complicated question. Who owns your genes?
Me. I do. They're mine.
Not according to the federal court, Tom. You didn't discover them.
Yes, but they grew inside me, Clark. They belong to me.
But how can you own something you don't know you have? Take this gene. It controls your ability to ask questions. Yeah.
Okay, and how does that... sorry, let me just try that again. Is that...
So while you might think it's yours, genetics companies argue that since their research and money went into finding your question gene and isolating it, they should get to decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
Who? Where? How? What? Why?
Because if it wasn't for them pointing it out, you wouldn't have known that it existed.
An observation is 10/10 of the law. Oh, look at that gene. I've never seen anything like it. What is it?
Who cares? It's ours now. Isolate it quick before anyone else does. Oh no. Oh no, the effects of the Shrinkage 3000 are starting to wear off. Oh, I can feel myself expanding.
I think you look great.
We need to get to the tear duct. Tom, you need to cry so we can escape.
But I'm not sad.
What do we do?
Tom!
Yeah?
The baby's not yours!
Oh, God! I will be right back.
Have you ever been shrunk down to the size of a baby Smurf and travelled into another human? Did you enjoy your amazing journey? Or was it more like one of those holidays that sucked at the time but which you come to appreciate later in life? We'd love to hear about it at the Roast TV or hashtag RoastKentiki.
So whose baby is it? Is it Mr. Science's?
I don't remember anyone being covered in this shit on the magic school bus.
Oh, hey, I lost a shoe.
Now, we're not saying that companies shouldn't be allowed to patent technology that they invent to discover these genes or the medications they synthesize afterwards, just not the naturally occurring gene itself. Because according to a professor of genetics at the University of Newcastle, genetic patents don't foster innovation, and patents for tests create monopolies that lead to high prices. So when Angelina Jolie, actress and keen collector of children, revealed last year that she had tested positive for the BRCA1 mutation and undertaken a preventative double mastectomy, women encouraged to follow Jolie's lead and get tested were being charged as much as $3,000, even though previously a geneticist could perform the test for around $500. And while $3,000 is a lot of money, most people will be forced to cough up because you can't put a price on health.
Unless you hold the patent, Tom. Look, I've had enough of your "my butt is a registered trademark and can't be reproduced without my permission" arguments. As an enterprising amateur geneticist, I believe I should be able to patent any part of the human body I discover. My hand, by the way.
Well, even if your patent restricts access to research and potentially life-saving tests?
Look, it's only restricting if you can't afford to pay me thousands of dollars for it. And if we don't allow companies to profit from discovering human genes, then why would anyone bother to do any more research?
To save millions of lives, go down in history as the person who cured cancer?
Yeah, sure, that sounds great, but if medical research was better funded around the world, scientists wouldn't have to patent everything. You can only be so motivated by the greater good when you spend half your time filling in grant applications.
What about Jonas Salk? He came up with the vaccine for polio, a disease that is now virtually eradicated. When asked who owned the patent for the vaccine, he said,
The people, I would say. There is no patent. Could you patent the sun?
Wow, that's really beautiful, Tom. That almost brings a tear to my eye.
Nick, I'm glad to hear that.
Do you know what actually brings tears out of my eyes and onto my hideously expensive suit? According to Forbes magazine, Salk would have been richer by $7 billion if his vaccine were patented.
It's a new low even for you, Nick.
And speaking of despicable things I've done, have you been wondering why your hearing's going and you suddenly have an insatiable urge to roll your socks up to your knees?
Who?
On the way in here, I passed two sticky people, and I bought the patent for the gene that controls how fast and in which direction you age.
So the gene is mutating?
Up. I'll tell you for $3,000.
Nick, I make 1/3 of a show on a public broadcast. I don't have that kind of money.
Your loss. By the way, you might want to get that baby tested as well. You don't want to be surprised when you give birth to a Benjamin Button.
When?
Good night.